Your specific person is a single thought away from texting you, so don't let your 3D reality or anyone convince you otherwise. Because I know sometimes things don't show up in the way that we want, but that doesn't mean everything isn't happening perfectly behind the scenes. We just have to make sure that we are not identifying with what goes wrong, but are always identifying with what goes right. Because sometimes it just takes one small thing to knock us out of the state and we find ourselves in a negative spiral. But just like I mentioned on this channel before, it's just as easily as you can negatively spiral, you can positively spiral as well. But again, it just all relates to what you are identifying with. And there is a funny metaphor that we can relate to this that will make the idea that one thing showing up incorrect, one time your specific person doesn't message you, the idea that that knocks you out of the state is absolutely ridiculous. So I want you to imagine a time that you did your laundry. And I want you to imagine you're holding a basket with all of your laundry, all of the dirty laundry that you are going to take in order to get cleaned. And I want to ask you, what would you do if one sock fell out on your way to the washer? Would you A, pick it up, or would you B, dump everything else and talk to yourself like a failure because one sock fell out? We of course know the answer to this. We would of course say, oh, that's just a small thing. I'm going to continue on and pick that up later, because it's not stopping us from doing what we want to do. But sometimes we act like the individual that dumps everything out when our specific person doesn't show up exactly how we want, when our specific person doesn't text us in the way we want. But really, none of that matters in our external reality, because it is just showing us a previous sense of self or a previous state and has nothing to do with the outcome. For example, you could even use that to your benefit. Anytime something kind of happens or is odd or feels like it's altering, think of change as being very good. Because as things are actually changing, it means we are changing. And so we can actually make this mistake as evidence. For example, we could say to ourselves, if the towel fell, it means I'm carrying laundry, proof I'm on the way to the washer. And how that looks with our specific person would be, if something negative happens, that means we're actually altering our state and becoming different if something different did occur. And that's actually a positive, because as we change our state, we are going to see everything begin to alter around us, which at first might seem very strange. We may not be able to tell why what is happening outside of us is actually something very good, but it absolutely always is. So absolutely never identify with something that happens in the negative. If your specific person doesn't text you back immediately, if they talk about something negative, like a third party or something, don't allow that to be the one towel that takes you out of the state and have you thinking that your reality is not perfect and always working out for you. Because I guarantee you, in your situation, you are doing so much better than you think by a long shot. I can't tell you how critical people are of themselves when they're actually doing amazing. I had someone recently manifest that they were meeting up and living with their specific person, but were still worried about the whole process. Or had someone manifest recently, their specific person paid for them to go on a vacation, but was still worried about it. And the list goes on and on and on. Everyone is always going to make the assumption that we could always do better, but that causes us to not focus on how amazing we're actually doing, and we start to forget it. So absolutely never identify with a dropped towel. And for example, I want you to take this mantra with you every time something negative happens, because it is always going to be a part of the bridge of events taking you to where you want to go regardless. So if they're not texting you, it actually has a positive meaning. If they show up in a way that's the opposite of what we want, it actually has a positive meaning. So what I want you to say to yourself anytime something negative happens is, oh my God, or that's just a dropped towel. I'm still walking. I'm still moving forward. That's just one dropped towel. Who cares about one dropped towel, right? And of course, I'm not saying that this will continue to persist. meaning just because your specific person didn't text you and you think, it's just one towel, or one drop towel, we think that maybe we're condoning this outcome, but you're not. Everything is always in relation to your state. So that's exactly what we want to do. We also, and to kind of amplify this idea even further, if you want to double down your effects and move even faster to your specific person, because again, it's all assumption, and if nothing can take us out of this state, we will basically be perfectly connected with it, and our reality must immediately respond. And so what I want you to do after you say, just a drop towel, so we didn't get texted back immediately, just a drop towel, I'm still going forward. What you want to do is having an action that implies you do believe that. Meaning, in those triggering events, so SB being cold, maybe we're not getting a text, maybe we have a negative thought, we're going to deliberately take one small aligned action towards our outcome. So it could be a visualization, as easy as that, or an affirmation, or we're going to journal for a bit, or we could do things that align with our end state. So think of your end and imagine what assumptions and feelings you would have. Maybe you would be loved, you would be positive, you would be abundant. We then take a small action that helps us feel in that way. So whether it's you call your best friend, you go take your dog for a walk, you go eat your favorite ice cream, I don't know, anything that's going to help us get into the state, because when we have that positive intention with this enlightened emotion, we see everything happen perfectly. As well, and I know I'm giving hopefully not too much in this video, we also can imagine it like a movie that we already know the ending of. How I know in the past, and let me know if you liked that. I had a technique previously where the Truman Show method, where you act as if your entire reality is being watched by people. But imagine if you were watching your favorite movie of yourself, of your love story, and something really small happened. A small towel was dropped. Would you be worried about that in your reality? The answer would be no. You already know the ending. You're already going to be with your specific person. It's already set in stone. There's actually nothing you can do to alter or change that. And if we can keep that in mind, we are never going to leave the state. So if it's just a 3-second mishap in the entire movie where the rest of it is perfect, don't allow that to completely change your identification and change your state. Like I mentioned, it doesn't matter how successful you are, we can still accidentally identify with something small and have our perception feel like we are not doing good. But I guarantee you, remember, that's just an illusion. It's just an illusion. This 3-second mishap that happened didn't change all of the work and the progress and the things that you've already done. Your specific person is still just a thought away from texting you. And I can actually give you an example of how we can flip this around just by using this idea. So here's an example of someone I was working with, and it might look confusing, but so they sent a screenshot of what their specific person sent them, and they wrote, "Woke up to this, I think he's still trying." So that's what we're looking at here. I know it might seem confusing, but if we just take a look at what their specific person said, before this point, their specific person was not in communication. They were worried. They thought their SP was ignoring them. They thought they weren't paying attention to them. They thought they didn't want to see them. And as they shifted, so they didn't identify with the 3-second mishap, they wake up to their specific person, coming back to them, apologizing, moving back into their reality, showing up how they wanted, asking them to meet up. And that's what can happen if we just continue in our end state in the way that we want and think upon what we desire rather than what we don't desire. Yes, from the perspective before they received this message, they would have still been worrying. They would have thought that this 3-second mishap was controlling their entire reality, but it absolutely wasn't. They were just as close to creating this and were able to quantum leap to this outcome just by changing that perspective and changing what they are identifying with. And so you can do the same thing. Like I said, your specific person is a single thought away from texting you. They're a single thought away from calling you. They're a single thought from you manifesting just like that person did and manifesting their break of no contact and asking to meet up. There is nothing stopping you but your own assumptions and the attention and direction you are going to place your imagination. It's always going to be our imagination, forever and always, no matter what. We always respond in our reality to our assumptions and not actual physical reality. So always keep that in mind. As well as this, if you did have any questions, make sure to comment them down below. And if you know that this reality is just a movie, I want you to comment what your end scene is. So what's the end result of you and your specific person? If something negative happens, you can always come back to this end scene and understand just because it's a 3-second scene that doesn't work out in the way you want, doesn't mean the entire movie isn't working perfectly. So what's that end scene with your specific person? As well as this, if you did want to reach out to me, that you didn't want to post publicly, a question, a thought, or anything, make sure to head over to KyleAugustCoaching.com. That's where you can reach me personally. And if you know no matter what happens, it's just one towel that's dropped and everything else is going perfectly, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video. As always, thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you. A huge shout out to all my members. Thank you for being a member. And I can't wait to see you in my next video tomorrow.